Oh, can you hear them in the background?
It's okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Lurking for Legends, a live video cast where my awesome co-host Christy Stratus and I speak with people from all walks of the publishing world. Lurking for Legends is a live interactive broadcast, and we encourage our viewers to chime in with questions for our guests or simply make comments on what you hear on the show. Unfortunately, Christy is under the weather today and sends her regards to everybody, especially Keri. She apologizes that she couldn't be here to speak with you today. That being said, you'll have to put up with me alone tonight.
Oh
But to
no.
offset that, Lurking for Legends is proud to introduce to you fantasy author Keri Brown. Hi, Keri. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you again.
Good to see you always.
So, I know a lot about you because you and I communicate quite often, especially through Messenger, about a whole bunch of different things.
I gotta cry.
Okay.
Give me a band-aid.
That's okay.
Paper cuts are the end of the world, man.
That's why it takes so long for us to write books because everything. So, why don't we just start by having you tell everyone a little bit about yourself? I know all about you, but most people know nothing about Keri Brown other than your awesome fans. So let these new fans know about Keri Brown.
Well, I guess I'm bright and bubbly on the outside and dark and terrible on the inside. Um, at least that's kind of how my writing turned out. I started off real, fun, and it turned real dark, and I'm learning a lot about myself as I write. But I never aspired to write. I I always thought I'd do something in law. Um, Not necessarily enforcing it, but studying it or doing something like that because I'm real good with the details on it. I'm also pretty well versed with medicine and biology, so if law wasn't my first choice, I would have bet my money on medicine. But instead, I ended up enjoying just being a mom for many years. So I spent 18 years, well, 17, something like that, 16, 17 years just raising babies. And one day I had this story and it was in the back of my head, and my husband um, I kept telling my husband about it. One day he said, just write it. And so who I am today is completely different than who I was 2.5 years ago. And I think writing has changed that. So I'm still learning myself as we go. And I guess that's all I got.
Okay, so you say 2.5 years ago. I was going to ask you what age you were when you realized you wanted to be a writer. And from the sounds of what you're telling me, this isn't something that you have dreamed of as a child or even as a teenager or even a young adult. You never thought about being a writer at all? This is just something that happened upon you lately?
It was really like spontaneous combustion. I never thought that I would be a writer. I'm not even much of a reader until I started writing. Um, I like audiobooks of Stephen King, but that was pretty much the extent of it. Nothing ever really grabbed me. And even now, as a writer, um, it's very difficult for me to find fantasy that I can get into. Um,
I find that very interesting. So, what was the actual impetus that actually made you say, I want to sit down and write something? Like you say, you're not even a reader per se up until now. Like, what would all of a sudden make you just sit down and write something?
I wrote a short story in junior high, my 10th grade year. So I was like 15 or 16. And my English teacher made a real big deal out of how well I wrote it. Not so much the grammar, the spelling, just the style and the flow. And she praised. I didn't get a lot of praising in school. I did okay. I was a B student. Nothing extraordinary, but not failing. So, I kind of went unnoticed. So when this teacher noticed it and um, it it stuck. It stuck with me. And before that, my favorite teacher, she was blind, is blind. Her name is Judy Kresick, and she is in her 70s now. She comes to all my book signings.
Nice.
She got me into mythology, so I'd already had a love for mythology. And so when that teacher praised my story, it stuck with me. And on top of the liking for mythology, which was really the only thing that I cared enough about to read. So even though I wasn't a reader, I would read mythology and Goosebumps. I would read Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
All the way through high school, I would read Goosebumps. You don't get too old for R.L. Stein. So, so I kind of put the two together in my head over time. And this story, instead of counting sheep, I would tell myself the story. And it started gaining detail one day. And I started jotting little bits down and telling my husband, oh, last night, while I was thinking about that story, trying to fall asleep, this occurred and this developed. And one day Jim said, why don't you go write it? And
So it's his fault.
it was his fault. I mean, I had a 18-month-old and a 3-year-old at the time that he said this. So really, I didn't think that he was going to be able to handle both a full-time job and then coming home while I write part-time. Because that was how he presented it. You know, you write like it's a part-time evening job and I will, you know, continue with what I do. But he did, and he's been great.
Awesome.
He's phenomenal, really. I don't have to worry about the time that I'm writing. But they barge in like they just did. But yeah, I started writing and I didn't realize I would be any good at it. But in 90 days, I had written a 125,000 word novel.
Wow, that's impressive.
From nowhere. And I didn't write or read or anything before.
Part-time too.
I'm sorry?
And doing it part-time as well. That's awesome.
Yes, I was just doing it, you know, after 3. I would usually write from about 4 to 8. Sometimes I would stop for supper if I wasn't flowing, but if I was really flowing, Jim would bring supper up for me. So 4 to 8, 4 hours a day. And on the days that he has off, one day we would usually, you know, take off together, and the other one would be my full work day, my 8-hour day. So yeah, that's about how much it's still quite a bit. I had quite a bit of time.
I find that amazing too. Wanda Janaway, one of our viewers, says that's amazing. And CJ saying having supported home. I was going to say this before CJ chimed in this, but your husband sounded like he was really supportive, and that's awesome because, you know, I know a lot of times if you sit there writing and, you know, other things are going around in the house and, you know, chores are getting done and kids are doing whatever, you almost feel guilty sitting there because it is, you know, it is a job if you're trying to make money at it, but it doesn't feel like it's a job, and you feel like, you know, I'm shirking my responsibilities, and it can be very tough.
It'll feel like a job when I start making money at it.
So we're talking about mythology. You were talking about mythology earlier, and
yes.
The viewer, Anita Stewart, she said, "What's your favorite mythology?"
My favorite mythology would have to be the Abatwa, and I think that's more folklore. But
that's right.
I don't know.
Who?
The Abatwa.
See, I haven't got a clue. I don't.
Oh, they're so cool. It might actually count as folklore. I don't know if there's a difference between folklore, legend, and mythology. Would you say they're all the same?
I would know.
Okay. Well, this is in one of those 3. I'm sorry?
I say hopefully Anita will chime in. She'll let us know. So ask Anita that question and she'll chime back in.
Okay. Yeah. The Abatwa were, I think they're an African folklore, mythology, legend type thing. They're itty bitty little tiny people that can hide under a leaf. And that doesn't mean that they're harmless. They're quite vicious. If you see them, you're best off just continuing along the way. But if they know that you saw them, you have to respond. You have to say something to flatter their ego. So the most common thing to say would be that you're fearful. They will ask you that, oh, there's a difference. Okay, well then,
they're all cool, so.
Yeah. So they'll ask you, when did you first see me? And I guess the answer is supposed to be, I first saw you from that mountaintop over there because of your enormous size. And I would like to run now and flee, for I'm so fearful. And they'll let you live. They also won't harm you if you're pregnant or under the age of 5. I believe it was 5. And if you step on one, you'll naturally die within 7 days. Kind of like the ring. So it was really cool reading about this, because my dad used to tell me a story when I was little about itty bitty people with little horses and carriages, and so I don't know if it was the same story or not, but I think it was.
As a child, did that make you afraid of what you're stepping on?
It,
Conscious of what you're stepping on, maybe?
I did not walk in the grass.
No.
No, not for a long time. I did not walk in the grass.
That's
And I
so.
was one of those kids that was always barefoot. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So Arrigo, or we were talking about this before we went on air. Arrigo or Origo is your first book, and I love the. I'm just going to read the blurb that you have online, just because I like the way it sounds. Could a human child destroy a world of dragons? Jack is human, adopted by his loving family of shape-shifting dragons. That's why he fears the ancient prophecy, the one that says he may be the son of darkness, who would destroy them and everyone else on the planet. Origo. You said Origo's proper, right?
Yes.
You've got me mixing it up. There's Origo. I'll take that. Jack bears the mark of the son of darkness, and he can't control his temper. Each time he confronts danger, even to defend his family and friends, Jack unleashes dark powers and takes another step toward becoming their doom. Only one thing stops the prophecy from being fulfilled. Jack has no counterpart. The daughter of light, whom the son of darkness is destined to kill, doesn't exist until he cracks a dragon egg that was never supposed to hatch. And then you go on to say, Arrigo, Son of Darkness, is book one in dark fantasy series with dragons, trolls, prophecies, and a little more darkness. Now, that being said, is this actually a dark fantasy, or is it more of an epic fantasy? Like, would the genre tend one way or the other, or is it a dark fantasy?
You know, it started off very Stardust and became very Coraline. That's something that someone said, one of my readers said to me. It started off so Stardust and it turned into Coraline. And so it started off, I did not predict the dark side to it. I thought it would be a very light dark side, like the bad guy in Smurfs. And
Gargamel.
yeah, Gargamel, there you go.
Gargamel, yeah.
I didn't think that I didn't realize that it would go as dark as it did, and my main character at one point in time, he kills an animal. Now the animal attacks him, but when he kills the animal, he actually kind of feels good to kill it. And so you start to see this darkness start to rise in him, and as he went, it became less young adult as I went. So it does kind of start off with a young adult feeling to it. But even at the beginning, there's some darkness in there. It starts off with a bloody scene, a marauding of an entire village that just razed the village. So I guess the darkness was there. I just didn't see it coming. And yeah, it gets pretty dark in book 2. So I'd say I'd probably let a 12-year-old read book 1, but I would probably want book 2 to go to a 16 or older.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
It definitely evolves into a dark fantasy.
Yes. I wouldn't hand book 2 to a 12-year-old.
Right. But just a bit off topic there, CJ says, I love the shirt. Great design for your book.
Thank you.
And tell me a little bit about the design for the book. I know you got the light and the dark on there, but it's two. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that not a dark dragon and a light dragon at the end of the day? Is that what it is?
No, it's literally their planet was chopped in half. If I may, I can read the prologue, and the prologue tells you how this happened.
Sure.
So let me see. All right. In the beginning, the great mistress of the stars was dancing along the cosmos when she discovered the young Earth. Inspired by its beauty, she decided to create a little world of her own. She took a pinch of soil, a drop of water, a gust of wind, and a flicker of fire from Earth, pulled them into space, rolled them together, and sprinkled stardust on them. A unique and powerful scale called a key, with a Q, formed on each of them, and they became the first dragons, elemental, immortal, and perfect. The mistress pulled a dead star from the heavens, rubbed it against the sun, and gave it the kiss of life, creating the magma heart. She put it between the dragons and covered it with soil, wind, and lava. The magma heart gave life to the lands, creating a diversity of creatures and vegetation in 4 continents arranged by compass, and thus Origo was born, an unseen planet that follows closely behind Earth's orbit. She doted on the creatures with pride, but knew something was amiss. 4 powerful dragons ruled over a world of lesser creatures with little to no powers. Something needed to bridge the gap. After several days of consideration, she came to one conclusion. Only dragons could relate to dragons, and creatures of lesser power could only relate to their own kind. So she merged the 2. From that point forward, all dragons hatched as creatures of the lands. This would be their due. As such, they would grow shoulder to shoulder with other humans, elves, wolves, or whatever their due was. Upon maturity, an emerald key would appear on their chest, releasing their dragon form to represent and rule their communities as viceroys. Before long, 2 humans, 2 elves, 2 wolves, and many other types of dragons filled the lands. Origo became a harmonious society of mythical creatures and viceroys under the rule of under dragon rulers called kings. Boy. Despite the mistress's best efforts to create a utopia, evil found its way into the heart of one of her kings. He was overpowered, but still managed to take half the planet with him and set the path for the son of darkness. So these 2 dragons, this one dragon king decides to start Origo over. And I make reference to a great flood, that he sees a flood that resets Earth and decides to try it over here. Why not? Reset the lands. He's having a child. His spouse is about to give him an heir, and he wants to leave it a simpler world to rule. So he's going to do this, but the other kings don't agree. There's 4 kings, and so in an effort to stop him, they fight, and during that fight, they tear the planet in half. They create this vortex in between the 2 sides, and the bottom half has all the natural disasters at once. The volcanoes continuously erupt, and it's covered with ash and smoke. And it stops spinning, while the northern half goes on as sort of an arc. And life continues. So now when Origo, the book, starts, it's been so long since it happened that there's no real evidence of any exact way things happened. So nobody really knows how it happened. This is before history was really recorded very well. So that's where we're at. And they're trying to figure out if this prophecy is going to happen.
That's awesome, because doing that prologue, you can see where the mythology comes into play there, because it reads just like something other mythology. So you can see where that comes from. So,
and my kings are all brought from mythology. Muji is from Korean mythology. Natlo, I can't remember. I can't remember what kind of mythology he is. And then there's Bakuna, or Bakuna is based on Bakunawa, which is Filipino. So I kind of pulled those mythologies together, and you'll find a lot of your old favorites in here too. They just might not be what you remembered.
Right. So that being said, did you know a lot about mythology before? I know you mentioned that your father used to like to speak about that, but did you study mythology, or have you, since you started writing this, done a lot more studying of different mythologies? I know you use different mythologies, so
well, I like to read it more than anything else, so I unwittingly kind of studied it over time. So I knew a little bit about a lot. So I had a vast knowledge of it, but not a very dense knowledge of it. I had knowledge of all the different kinds, just it was so broad that I didn't know a whole lot about any one particular kind. So there was still a lot of research involved when I started writing.
So that being said, I don't know a lot about mythology, obviously, and so I don't know the people that write it. Do you have a favorite uh, author of mythology, a favorite person that you go to because their mythology just really sets the mood for you?
I don't really read it as stories. I read it more as information. So I mean, I piece it together, you know, that it's used in a lot of the movies that we watch today. Gods of Egypt and Scorpion King stuff, just whatever a lot of mythology is in entertainment.
Right.
So, you know, first there's that, and then just picking it up you pick it up in more places than you realize when you're paying attention. And I
Oh, yeah.
think I forgot the question.
No, I was just asking, like, I'm trying to come up with the proper word, but a favorite author, a favorite source that
Oh,
you would
yes.
really go to. But so you're basically picking these up from the general media that you're watching and seeing and taking in, and you're just expanding upon it.
Yeah, and it's not just mythology. See, I say mythology, but I'm lumping mythology, folklore, and legend. And Miss Anita says that those are different things. So I believe her. I just never really looked in. It didn't occur to me that they would be different things until now, because
Right.
I love them all, and I hug them all as one. So so yeah, I don't really have a favorite. Maybe the Grimm brothers, but that's more fairy tales, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really a Stephen King fan. I, I guess I don't know.
No, that's fine. You know, and that's the joy for us fantasy authors. Like I put out a post today, and I put epicness, and epicness is not a word, but I'm a fantasy author, so I can make it a word if I want to make it a word. You know, we have the liberty of doing what we want. I can have
Right.
purple trees and pink skies if I want because I'm a fantasy author. You know, as long as you make it a little plausible at the end of the day. But
You know, it's
it's
funny what can be plausible and what cannot be plausible.
well, you know, as long as you make it sound plausible, that's all you need to do. It's not like writing science fiction. I can never write science fiction because then, you know, those are hard facts and people will call you on those things. So there's no way I could do that. But, so speaking of mythology and everything else, so how much world building do you actually do beforehand, or do you do any at all?
No, I don't. I do it as I go. I mean, it falls into place. It's like I'm walking on a bridge and I can only see 3 feet in front of me. And as I'm walking, things are coming in and laying together for me to step on. And that's exactly how I write. And sometimes I will go back and adjust things, and sometimes I'll have an idea in mind. Okay, I want to get this guy to this side of town. But there's very little plotting. I don't include the maps other than what is on the front, because this is
Right.
an actual map, but that's because I haven't been able to find somebody who can turn it into a equirectangular.
It is
Very,
difficult. That's for sure.
yes,
I,
it is difficult.
I was talking to, I think I mentioned Incarnate before, and I did my original maps through Incarnate, and like you say, I could not make it fit the page, and then I had issues with the darkness, especially when in print. It's okay in ebooks because you can put the color in there, but Incarnate is now allowing you to set the size of your canvas. So in the book I just released, I did the map in Incarnate, and it worked out perfect, and it gives these little banners that you can stick behind the words so that they actually pop out in print. So it's great.
And that's
So
the one where you pay for a year and everything you make in that year is yours, right?
you can make as much as you want, but as soon as you go commercial, then you have to apply for the license. And
Right.
at that point, it's $25 for that year. And that map, any map you make in that year, you can use for the rest of your life. Never have to pay $25 again. But if you make a new map next year, then you have to apply for the $25 again. So it's
Yeah.
a great deal.
Yeah, I was planning on getting started with that. I just you know, with everything that I had going on in the last couple of weeks, and then it all led up to my book release. My book release was the, well, I
Last
guess
week.
it's not. I'm sorry.
It was last week, wasn't it? Last Wednesday.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, the book release was last week, and we had our granddaughter born yesterday, and we're taking a trip, next week, and my other son got married last month, and so we had a lot of things all kind of crunched into. So it's getting close to the vacation at the end, and I'm
it's tough being an author because life gets in the way. Life needs to bugger off so we can actually get down and just write. But there's always something that's coming, and a lot of times it's unexpected. It just totally throws the deadlines and everything. And I don't put hard deadlines in, but I have deadlines that I like to meet, and I never meet them.
Well, and it was really difficult for me with this book because I missed deadline after deadline after deadline after deadline. And they weren't hard deadlines. They were just my own mentally set goals.
Yep.
But my goal was to come out with this book. Before I wrote it, I thought I could come out with it in April of 2020. And I didn't finish writing until May 1st of 2020. So book 1 took me 3 months. Book 2 took me 5 months. But then after I got done writing it, it was the editing and proofreading. I stumble block after stumble block, issue after issue. It was 2020. It was not going to go well. So it sucked missing I missed a July deadline, and then I missed September, and then I missed November, and then I missed January, and then I finally said, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna come out with it in June, because this year 69 lands on Hump Day. So that was my goal, and I finally made my goal. It came out when it was supposed to.
That's funny.
Well, I do have a character from the 90s, and he would make a joke like that, so it was in honor of him.
So this goes back to what we were talking about before, about you not reading a lot. And Wanda says, for someone who hasn't read a lot and never dreamt of being an author, you definitely were meant for writing. You have a way with words that is captivating.
Aww, that was really nice to hear. Thank you.
And then Ken Schultz, he's a Canadian author. We had him on here a little while ago. And, if you're an author, deadlines, you should never have a hard deadline, because
no.
Unless you live under a rock, you're not going to meet them. I keep trying to rapid release my stuff to take advantage of algorithms on Amazon, and even this book that I just released, I just got fed up of waiting until I got the next book done. I just screw it, I'm going to release it. I had planned to wait until I had the next book done and partway through book 3 before I released this book, but who knows when that would have been, and I haven't put anything out since last summer. So
when you set that stack on the table, are you printing it with 1-inch margins on 8x11 paper pages?
No.
Okay.
See, I format it, and that's something I tell new authors too, is that format your page on Word the size that you're going to use when you print it, because that'll save you so much grief and headache when you actually go to format everything, and you change your 8x5 and to times 11 to a 6x9. Everything just goes crazy on the screen, and nothing lines up, and everything's horrible. So as soon as you start your first word in your manuscript, make sure that your page dimensions are all set. Then you never have to format that again.
Well, see, when I see that,
I don't change it. And yes, so that prints it off in the 6x9 format, which is actually 1-inch margins all the way around. So that's what, 4x7. So yes, I wasted a lot of paper, but it's so much easier to edit, because each page lines up with my computer screen, unless I start adding or taking away a lot of text. So it certainly saves me a lot of grief by having it set that way.
Well, I just wondered, because when I saw 696 pages, and I thought that you had a stack of 696 pages on 8x10 paper all the way, formatted to 8, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's going to be like 1,500 pages in a 6x9. Okay, now I get it.
It wastes paper, but it's a business cost, so I write it off at the end of the year, and it just makes my life when I'm editing so much easier, for sure. And I look at the paper and go, oh my goodness, and I only do a single-sided too. My wife keeps saying, oh, you should do a double-sided to save paper, but it's not the same, because I'll get doing my edits, and then I'll look at my page and go, did I flip that or not? And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you're going through 300 to 400 pages, it's so monotonous sometimes, and it's so hard just to go back and forth. Did I flip
You
the page?
have to have a beat to it. You have
Yes,
to
oh,
be able
for
to
sure.
put a
This
beat to it.
makes everything
Yeah.
so much smoother for sure. So we touched on this, and I can just safely assume that you are a pantser, not a plotter, just by the way you said you went about your world. I can't say it. World building. So you're a pantser like I am.
Yes, definitely a pantser, 100%. I do try to aim, so for an end goal, but it's funny because sometimes I'll think that I'm aiming for these two people to peak with a fight. I never expected that guy to win, and that's how it always goes. I kind of knew that we were going to come to this scene, generally a vague idea of it, almost like I have a silhouette in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the closer we get, the more detail I can make out. I know where we're going, but it's not the same when I get there as when I envisioned it, ever.
And I find that so exciting because I find that by writing as a pantser, that I don't know the story either. Like you say, I know the silhouette at the end. I know where I want it to go, and it doesn't always get there. But as I'm writing a book, it's almost like I'm reading the book. So I'm discovering the book as I write it, and it's as exciting as reading a book you've never read before because you don't know what's going to go on. And then all of a sudden the characters do something totally screwy, and you go, "Oh, we're going over here now." So there we go. Yeah, no, I enjoy writing that way just for that fact that it's like I'm reading the book myself.
A friend of mine, I realized that I write like she talks, because one day she was visiting and she just blurted out the craziest stuff. She always does. And I said, "Do you even think about the things you say before you say them?" And she says, "No, I want to be just as surprised as everybody else." And I thought, oh my gosh, that's how I write. I totally get it.
Yeah, no, I think that's the best way to be. And that being said, I do plot kind of now just because I get so much lore built up with all the books I read, and I keep everything in the same series. So I start taking snippets out, and okay, I want to use this somewhere, and I want to use that somewhere. So I start putting them in different sheets. Hopefully, I'll be able to find them again when the time comes. But so I don't think it's really plotting. It's just helping me remember that so and so had a knife named Soul Biter that you might not see for the next 6 books, but all of a sudden the blade comes back. So yeah.
And I do plan on working on that spreadsheet now that I'm in between novels. But I also noticed, after I asked your advice on how to keep all the world building stuff straight, I made the campaign. And while I was making the campaign, I realized.
So before you do that, what are you talking about here? I know what you're talking about, but no one else. So you made a campaign book.
I made an Origo campaign. It's a tabletop campaign that's compatible with Dungeons and Dragons 5e edition.
How cool is that?
That right. So we made it with that in mind because it's open source. It's an open source game, but I also made it to where it can be played without attaching it to any other game. And while I was making it, I realized how much information I was stashing away in these pages. So right here, I've got Grace. I've got Grace, and I've got all the information on Grace. And I thought to myself, and I see how I left these lines here empty. Those are for me, because I'm going to go back and I'm going to put extra notes in there. But the players will probably find use for those lines too. And so it's an entire miniature campaign. So it won't take you 7 days to get through. It's got 27 creatures, or 27 non-playable NPCs. Yeah, non-playable characters. It's got 5 creatures. It's got seven creatures that you can encounter. It's got the main campaign can split 2 different directions. So even though it's miniature, it's still pretty detailed, and it's free.
Oh, free's good.
It's free.
Not for you, but it's good for everyone else.
It's $3.58 to have it printed on Amazon, but I don't make anything off of that. It's the minimal price that they would let me set it at. I'm trying to figure out how to get the ebook as as perma-free, but it is also on my website for download, print, and play.
It's not cool, and that'll help build your brand.
Yes.
I think at the end of the, yeah, that's an awesome idea. So that being said, now is that something that like for people to sit around a table and play it, or is that a book that you do it on your own? You know those adventure books where you read the beginning and then flip to page 268 and then you decide what you want to do and flip to page 150, and is it like that, or is it an actual D&D game where you sit down?
It's an actual D&D game where you sit down at a table and everybody brings a character, and well, I can read the very beginning here, or I'll just read back of it for you. Within the world of Origo are many creatures and many factions. As Dungeon Master, it is your job to take control of this world and allow your players to fit in where they choose. It's a sandbox, I think it's called. Will they help Inko and his family? Will they join some of the newcomers and help them? Will they uncover a plot, and what will they do about it? Maybe they'll choose to incite chaos, as they have come to believe that Origo is going to be destroyed. It is up to you and the players to decide what path awaits them. Contained in this packet is an outline of over 27 characters and 7 creatures to help your gameplay. The gameplay is designed to be molded into any role-top playing game.
Awesome.
Roll-top playing game. I think that's supposed to be tabletop. It's free.
So CJ, and I was thinking the same thing. CJ's saying it's like a wiki, and I think it's what she means is for them or for your characters. So when you look at those, I've got wiki pages on my website where the characters kind of interact, and that's kind of cool. But that little book is almost like a wiki book of your characters. So it's kind of a neat. So the characters that we see in there, if I was to play that game, would they be characters from your book?
Yes.
Yes, that's awesome.
Everything in here is from the book, but if you've read book 1 and not book 2, it will spoil some stuff for you. It's got spoilers. There's actually
before you play.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can play it without reading book 2, but if you plan to read book 2, read it first, because I even put a warning in there that it contains spoilers.
So when everybody here wants to play the game, they have to read book 1 and 2. So go out there and get books 1 and 2. And you know what? I think we have a special guest who wants to say something to you here.
Sure. Oh.
You might know that person.
Yes, I might. It's a mini campaign played standalone or add on to the existing campaign.
That is so awesome.
That's my husband, Jim.
Yes, I gathered that. That's it. So did he have a hand in helping you out with that as well?
He did help me with a lot of it was trying to get it put together with the stats, and that's where I had the trouble. These things here, the strength and stuff. Yeah, that's Jim.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that part. No.
Well, that's good.
But I did use Adobe Illustrator, and I designed the pages, and I used Adobe InDesign and was able to format them. It was a lot. This book, it may be free, but what I got out of it is priceless. So I learned a lot.
You were telling me the other day that how much you've researched and looking into formatting and stuff. We had a discussion about that.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to the end here. Just so what have you got coming forward? So you got Origo, the Son of Darkness. You got Origo, the Daughter of Light.
Yes.
Is there book 3 coming out?
Yes, book 3 tentatively should be titled Greyfire.
Okay.
And those who have read book 1 and 2, well, book 2 will know who that is. But in book 1, we go over what's dark. In book 2, we go over what we think is light, and in book 3, we go over gray. I guess it's kind of the
mixture,
kind of thematic, but but yeah, from the very beginning, I pictured the 3-part yin yang with the black piece, the white piece, and the gray piece, all
right.
A 3-piece instead of 2, and so it's getting into it's getting into more of, instead of a balance of good and bad, it's getting more into a balance of like a pyramid, three
Mhm.
sides. The strongest geometric shape is the triangle, and that plays a big role. I don't know why, but it does.
And I know
So,
you're talking deadlines, but what is your soft deadline for book 3?
ooh, I'm 0 words into it. I've been,
It
no,
won't be
that's not
next week.
true. That's not true. I've got a chapter. I forgot that. I got a chapter. Um, yeah, so I don't know. If I'm lucky and can really just dive into it after this vacation, I might be able to have it done by September. But
Oh,
that's me hoping.
yeah.
That's
And so I imagine you'll announce it on your website at origonow.com. I've
yes.
put it in the comments a little bit farther up if someone wants to check out your website. And so speaking of checking out your stuff, where do you sell your books? So if someone wanted to buy your first 2 books and look into the campaign book, if they're into Dungeons and Dragons, where would they find your stuff? Are you just limited to Amazon? Are you exclusive with them, or are you wide?
I'm wide with Ingram Spark, and so they go, I don't want to say everywhere, but they go all over. So it should be available on online retailers of just about any bookstore. Um, and it's available on Amazon. I mean, it's even available on Walmart.com. So, if you're a Walmart employee, and you could even get a discount. Um, but yeah, it's on Amazon also. Now, that's true for books 1 and 2. It is not true for the campaign. The campaign is only on Amazon right now and on my website.
Awesome.
So,
And
well, thank you, Ken. I hope you like it.
thank you, Ken. And one more thing before I start signing us down here. And this sounds like it might be a threat, but we'll just check and see what it says.
That is very true. I walked into Walmart one day and there was this lady, I'd never met her in person, and she just walked up to me and said, "You're an asshole." And walked away. Jim had to tell me, that's Paula. She's the one who read your book.
Oh, nice.
She didn't like the ending, I guess.
Okay, that's awesome. It's nice getting feedback like that. That's actually good feedback.
Yes, it is. Oh, I loved it. And she got to read book 2 as an ARC reader as well. So I just never met her in person, so I didn't know what she looked like. And yeah, there is one thing that I'm leaving out about these books that I think is the coolest, or the second coolest thing about them, is these are not winged dragons.
Okay.
These are some people call them drakes. Some call them lung dragons. These are my dragons. They've
Awesome.
got kind of a lion's mane, and so they're not mindless fire-breathing creatures. I mean, some of them breathe fire, but they're not pets. They're not beasts. They're not mindless. They're advanced. They have their own civilization. They have their laws. They have doctrines. They have rulers. They have leaders, viceroys, and so on. So yeah, that's important to me.
Well, thank you, Keri, for sharing your journey with Origo and the campaign books as well. And we look forward to seeing book 3 when it comes out, and certainly look us back up on Lurking for Legends, and we can maybe coordinate it with your book launch and get it going again.
Yes.
Have you back on, and we'll have Christy on here. I know Christy's looking forward to talking to you, but unfortunately,
yeah, I'm gonna have to just catch her on FaceTime and say hi, because darn.
yeah, she's awesome. She makes this show that much better. So anyway, so for myself and generally at this point, I asked Christy what she's got new. So I'll just tell everyone what I have new. I just released. I do. I just released this book today. This is the official release date of Keeper of the Jewel, and that's the one we're talking about. It's 626 pages. It's almost 600 pages of story, and then you got the front and back matter. It's the biggest book I've written, and it just released today, and I have paperback signed copies if anyone wants them. I will ship them around the world, but being Canadian, our postal service sucks because they charge so much to ship a book. So to ship a book pretty well costs as much as the book costs, so it's almost doubles the price. And I know in the US you guys get media rate for shipping those things, which is awesome how they support you that way. But I guess we get free ISBN, so maybe there's a trade-off there. But
Yeah.
it doesn't help me when I'm trying to send them to customers. I've had 2 or 3 people over the last couple of days saying, "Oh, I want a book, and then when I tell them the postal rates to go to the States, they go, maybe I'll just buy it off Amazon," which is fine. I don't mind them buying it. But yeah, Anita says she's a Canadian as well. She says our postage is outrageous.
But your people are so friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, there is that. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's the friendly price that we pay. But anyway, so I just released that, and I'm working on my audiobook. I'm halfway through doing the edits for the audiobook of the Bainbridge Companions box set. So there's 3
Did you do your own audiobook?
No, I have a professional narrator who does them for me, but every day he sends me a couple chapters. I listen to them, because even narrators make mistakes. So, and then I send him the edits back, and then he corrects them and then sends me. So it's quite a process, but it's a lot of fun. So next week, we'll be speaking with dark fantasy author Jennifer Ann Schlag. After having written horror and science fiction short stories as a child, Jennifer wrote her first screenplay at the age of 22, which she turned into a novel. Jennifer was part of a box set that made it to the USA Today best-selling list, and all of her books have made it at least once in the top 100 of multiple genres on Amazon. So although she writes dark fantasy, so you're going to like her.
Yeah.
She dabbles in paranormal, romance, sci-fi, romance, YA, and children's horror books. So it should be good having Jennifer on next week. I know Jennifer through Facebook. Her and I talk as well, just like you and I do, Keri. And it'll be nice to actually see her. I knew what you look like because you interviewed me before, which is awesome. I've never met Jennifer at all before, so nice to meet Jennifer next week. Anyway, it should be a good one.
I think this is the 3rd time you've had me on.
Yes, I had you on live read before.
Yes, and you also had an interview with me. Yeah, it was on a live read. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
it was on a live read. Yeah. I'll be doing those again. My live reads, I generally do them every Friday. But because I've been so heavy into my editing, I haven't had any new stuff. So that's what my live read's all about, is editing my books as I write them. So anyway, so Jennifer Schlag should be a good interview next week. So until next Tuesday, thank you for tuning in and being part of Lurking for Legends. Thank you, Keri, for joining us. Have a good week. Take care.
And thank you.